woman from Miami who went on vacation with her sister and ended up coming home in a casket.
A 29-year-old Miami woman, Denisha Delancy, was fatally shot in Sint Maarten on March 2, 2026, after gunmen ambushed a vehicle in what is believed to be a targeted attack on Trinidadian businessman Quincy Damon Sylvester, who also died at the scene.
The driver who'd been waiting for them all night picked up his phone and called. It was almost 4 in the morning. He had dropped off 2 of the girls at the Airbnb hours ago, but something felt off. Something in his gut told him something was wrong. So he called. Sincaria answered, and the words that came out of that driver's mouth changed everything. The man Denisha had stayed with, the man they had met just hours earlier at a nightclub, had been found dead, and Denisha was with him. She was 29 years old. She was on a birthday trip. She was supposed to fly home in a few days. Instead, Denisha Delancy came home in a casket. This is the story of a young woman who did nothing wrong, who loved hard, who lived loud, and who was taken the most senseless, most preventable way imaginable, not because of who she was, but because of who she happened to be sitting next to at 3:30 in the morning on a dark road in Sint Maarten. Stay with me, because this one is going to sit with you. Every detail matters. Every decision that night had weight. And by the end of this, I want you to tell me, in the comments, what you think could have changed this. Because this case deserves that conversation. Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. If you're someone who believes that real stories deserve real attention, that victims like Denisha deserve more than a headline and a scroll, then please take 5 seconds right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to Mystora Crimes, and click that bell so you never miss a story like this one. These are real people, real families, and the least we can do is make sure their stories reach as many eyes and ears as possible. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to the families who know someone out there still cares. Now let's get into it. Denisha Delancy grew up in Liberty City, Miami, Florida. If you know Miami, you know Liberty City has a reputation. It is a neighborhood that builds resilience in people whether they ask for it or not. And by all accounts, Denisha had that resilience. She had graduated from Florida State University, which for anyone who has navigated the road from Liberty City to a university degree knows is not a small thing. That takes drive. That takes focus. That takes someone who refuses to be defined by her zip code. People who knew Denisha describe her with the same kind of warmth you hear when someone is truly, genuinely loved. She was the kind of person whose smile you remembered, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and shift the energy in it just by being present. She loved to travel. She loved to celebrate the people around her. She was not reckless. She was joyful. And there is a significant difference between those two things that I think gets lost in how this story has been told in some corners of the internet. Because the moment news of her death went viral, there were 2 camps. One camp grieved for her and her family. The other immediately started asking what she did wrong. And I want to address that not to excuse any decision made that night, but because understanding Denisha as a full human being, not just a cautionary tale, is the only way to truly understand what happened to her. March 2026. Denisha and her sister Sincaria made plans to travel to Sint Maarten. It was a birthday trip, Sincaria's birthday. Sint Maarten is one of those Caribbean destinations that feels like a reward. Crystal water, nightlife, the kind of island where the whole point is to exhale. They brought a friend along and booked an Airbnb and hired a private driver, and I want you to hold on to this detail, which means this was not an unplanned, spontaneous, careless trip. These women had made arrangements. They had thought ahead. They had a plan. On their very first night on the island, Denisha, Sincaria, and their friend went out to a nightclub called the White Rabbit. This is the moment the story begins to pivot. Though none of them knew it yet, inside the White Rabbit, they met a man. He was charming. He was from Trinidad but lived on the island. He seemed well-connected. The kind of man who knew the right people at the right spots. His name was Quincy Damon Sylvester. Now here is something important, and I want to be very deliberate in how I say this. From everything reported by authorities and local media in Sint Maarten, Denisha had no idea who Quincy Damon Sylvester really was. None. She met a man at a club who seemed like he belonged there, who seemed successful, who had a car and presence and confidence. She had no reason to run a background check on him. Most people who meet someone at a nightclub on vacation do not. What Denisha could not have known, what almost no tourist would ever know, was that Sylvester had a shadow life underneath that composed exterior. He ran a PVC pipe installation and sales business, a legitimate-looking operation, out of Cahill on the island. But according to Sint Maarten police and regional law enforcement, that business was allegedly a front. Sylvester was believed to be deeply tied to organized criminal networks, specifically drug operations with connections running back to Trinidad. Authorities would later describe him as a suspected kingpin in the island's criminal underworld. He was not just a businessman who had made some bad decisions somewhere along the line. He was allegedly a target, someone that people with very serious resources had been watching and waiting on. And the people watching him were in that nightclub that night. They just were not the ones dancing. Surveillance footage from the White Rabbit would later prove to be one of the most chilling parts of this entire investigation. When Sint Maarten's major crimes team reviewed the footage, they saw something that changed the entire framework of the case. Unknown individuals had been in that club watching Sylvester for hours, not subtly keeping an eye on someone across the room, actively monitoring him, tracking his movements, waiting. While Denisha and her group laughed and drank and danced on a birthday trip, there were men in that same building who had come there with one purpose. They were not there to celebrate anything. They were there to plan a murder. This is a part of the story that I cannot shake, because by the time the night wound down in St. Maarten and their friend decided to ride back to the Airbnb with Sylvester, with Denisha eventually staying behind with him, the clock was already running. The decision had already been made by people none of them had any knowledge of. The ambush was being coordinated. The route was probably already chosen. Around 3:30 in the morning, the SUV carrying Quincy Damon Sylvester and Denisha Delancy was traveling along Arlette Peters Road in Phillipsburg. Gunmen opened fire on the vehicle. The SUV lost control. It overturned. When first responders arrived, they initially believed they were responding to a car accident. It was the bullet holes that told the real story. Both Sylvester and Denisha were pronounced dead at the scene. She never had a chance to scream for help. She never had a chance to call her sister. She never had a chance to explain to anyone what was happening, because she did not know what was happening. One moment she was in a car, and then she was gone. When St. Maarten got that phone call from the driver in the early hours of the morning, the world shifted. She had gone to sleep on her sister's birthday trip and woken up without her sister. That is the kind of loss that rearranges everything inside a person. There are no words adequate for what that feels like. Police moved quickly. On the same day as the shooting, the police force of Sint Maarten conducted targeted searches across the island. 2 days later, on March 4th, they arrested a Trinidadian national identified publicly only by the initials age. He was taken into custody and remains there. But here is the part that should alarm every person watching this. The main suspect in the killing is still at large. Authorities have confirmed that all the individuals believed to have been involved in the plot are from Trinidad, suggesting this was not a local street crime. This was an organized, coordinated hit that crossed international borders and landed on a Caribbean island where an innocent woman from Miami happened to be on vacation. Denisha's body was brought home to Miami. Her family arranged a visitation on April 3rd at Mitchell Funeral Home and a celebration of life the following day at 93rd Street Community Baptist Church. The woman who had graduated from Florida State University, the woman from Liberty City who loved to travel, the woman whose smile people still talk about. She was 29 years old. Now I want to sit with you here for a moment before we close out, because this case opens up questions that go far beyond what happened on that road. The first question is one about the environment itself. Sint Maarten is a popular tourist destination, thousands of visitors every year. But how much do tourists actually know about the layers of criminal activity that can exist underneath the surface of any island economy. Sylvester had a functioning business. He had a social presence. He was out at nightclubs meeting people. The line between dangerous and ordinary was completely invisible to anyone who did not already know which side of it he was on. So, how do you protect yourself from something you cannot see? The second question is about accountability. One person is in custody. The main suspect is still free. The people who watched Sylvester all night in that nightclub, who monitored his movements, followed him out, and coordinated an ambush, most of them have not been brought to justice. For Denisha's family, justice is still unfinished. And I want you to think about what that feels like, to have buried your daughter, your sister, your friend, and to know that the people most responsible for her death are still walking around somewhere. And the third question, the one I think about the most, is what this story says about the randomness of tragedy. Denisha did not have a criminal record. She was not involved in anything that should have put her in the crosshairs of anyone. She was on a birthday trip. She met someone. She made a choice that millions of people make on vacations all over the world every single day without consequence. The only difference between Denisha and the thousands of tourists who did the same thing and came home safely is that she happened to meet a man who someone else had already decided was going to die that night. There's a version of this story where she gets into a different car, where she goes back to the Airbnb with her sister, where she wakes up the next morning, and they all go to the beach and laugh about the night before. That version exists. It just was not the one that happened. So I want to ask you, the person watching this right now, what do you think about this case? Do you think justice will ever fully come for Denisha? Do you think there is something tourism boards and authorities in popular Caribbean destinations need to do differently to protect visitors? And do you think we as a culture are too quick to look for what a victim did wrong before we look at who actually pulled the trigger? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. This community is built on conversation, on analysis, on refusing to let stories like Denisha's disappear into the noise. If this story moved you, if you believe Denisha deserved more than a few days of headlines, then please subscribe to Mystora Crimes and share this video. Every share is one more person who knows her name, one more person who understands what her family lost, one more person who might someday see something in a comment or a thread that helps bring the remaining suspects to justice. Her name was Denisha Delancy. She was 29 years old. She loved to travel. She loved to celebrate the people she loved. And she deserves to be remembered